if you look at what is getting impacted, it's people, process, communication, collaboration. We are also talking about infrastructure, right? We are also talking about how we are going to scale as we increase the development capabilities, and we are going to initiate new programs. How we are going to scale if we are going to use Agile. What are the tool sets that we are going to use for automation in different areas of life cycle, right? So let's talk about people here. People with a different skill sets, which would need awareness of the process. Okay, they would need a complete cultural shift in terms of how they would perform, a flexibility to be shown in terms of a change, right? At the same time, commitment towards delivery with the right quality on the spot and continuously, right? So, and that's where, when we're talking about people, we are also talking about the HR processes aligned to those group of people who are moving into Agile. And at the same time, when we are talking about HR, it's a organization change that is going to happen with a skill sets, various other parameters to support their work, right? We talk about processes. A very simple process, very lean process that we need to adopt. We need to define that process first. We need to align it to the required objective of this transformation. We need to pilot into a particular area. And at the same time, we need to scale it. As we talked about, if we are going to increase the delivery teams from one to multiple across different vendors, across different geographies, right? At the same time, the process would also need training associated to changes in the process, changes in the reports that are going to get generated, changes in the artifacts that we are going to document, changes in the roles that we are talking about from a people's point of view, right? So a broad level of changes when we talk about the processes as well. Communication and collaboration is a very key area when we talk about Agile transformation. We are talking about delivering projects in multiple geographies, working with different vendors across different time zones, right? So communication becomes a big challenge when we are moving into an Agile, where we need frequent communication, collaboration with our partners, with our customers, and the vendor partners as well, right? So you should have the right tools to communicate. You should have video conference. You should have telecom facilities. All that is needed to ensure that there is right communication happens at the right time. And this would need a huge change from an infrastructure point of view as well. Your internet lines may not support video conference or having a webcam on the developer's machine, and that's where the bandwidth is going to eat up. So there's an infrastructure change needed there. At the same time, the developers, testers will need more environments to work on, because every 2 weeks we are expecting a delivery to happen, right? So I need a test environment, I need a system integration environment, I need a UAT, I need a performance testing environment. So there is a huge change in the way we look at from an infrastructure point of view, right? At the same time, when I talk about this, this becomes an area where people wants to, have to sit together in their location they are working on, right? And even in the distributed environment, the team at one location should sit together, and that's where the sitting arrangement should be aligned. People should have remote accesses. So again, an infrastructure issue, how people can connect remotely if they are not able to reach office, or some other issues that they run into, right? So that's going to impact on our scalability factor also. So we talked about scalability, where we are going to increase the people count from one team to multiple teams across vendors, across geographies. So licensing is an issue. when we talk about scalability again. Last area with, and probably not the least here, is the automation across the life cycles. So it starts from your code reviews, and it can continue to a continuous deployment, build, integration. So every aspect where we can do an automation, we should invest there, and that's where the transformation cost gets impacted, right? So there are 8 focus areas that I specifically look at when we are looking at a change management process. So these 8 areas, as you can see on the focus areas, it's management commitment, IT governance and demand management, organization change management, work environment and infrastructure, training and awareness, lifecycle activities, project governance, project monitoring and control, right? And these 8 areas very critical and runs from top to down. A very top-down approach where we start our drivers with business values. So what is that business value we are going to deliver to the customer? And that's where a change in mindset is needed from a management standpoint. We are looking at a complete ecosystem to be changed, moving your development, maintenance, shared services, infrastructure, all moving into an agile direction. So I cannot raise a ticket which has an SLA of 3 weeks, where my development is supposed to be done in 2 weeks sprints. That's where your infrastructure comes into the picture, shared services, DBAs, all that has to change when we are moving to that. The essence is that we are looking at customer engagements throughout the project execution, right? So customer needs to be involved with the delivery teams on a day-to-day basis to understand where we are, get queries clarified, and many more things from a day-to-day basis standpoint. It's a very drastic shift when we talk about interactions over the processes rather than on the people, right? So if there's a complete shift happens when we're talking about empowering the people working on the projects than just relying on the processes. If we talk at a program level, right, there are emphasis to experience and expertise in the team members. So multi-skilled people needs to be involved into a team. And I have an example where I reiterate this to whenever I have a session, that a developer jumping into a testing shoes is probably easier, whereas the testers jumping into a developer shoes, right? But I have examples where we have the testers moving into a development area, if not fixing the code, at least analyzing what the issue is about, where the code problem is, right? So there is a complete shift in how the teams are aligned, how the teams are motivated to do that. So that talks about our roles and responsibilities with changes, and that needs to be definitely awarded or appreciated. At a program level, we also talk about the tools to be used from a reporting standpoint or from a continuous build, do an automation stuff in a regular SDLC cycle. So that's how we reduce the cycle time of delivery, right? And that's where there is a good emphasis on having J units and N units where we can understand the code quality, check styles and things like that, which can review the code. There are tools available which would also look at the performance of the code written. There are tools available for understanding the security issues within the tools. So all this needs to be factored in when we are looking at tool stacks for a given technology. So that's where we can look at automation. So, and when we talk about top-down approach, there is a trust factor that comes in from a management point of view, even customers, right? If the customers are looking at us and they don't trust in these partners, then there is a big issue, and that's where we kind of have a discussion. We have a change management initiative in terms of understanding what is it going to be reported, what is okay with them, what should change over a period of time, and it's a gradual approach, right? It cannot change on a day one. So trust and transparency needs to be brought in. Another focus area is delivering working software, and that's where when we are saying working software, we are talking about the business value that we are going to deliver to the customer. In the first iteration or the first sprint, I may not deliver any business value, but as I progress in the next sprints or the future sprints, business is going to look at what is that value I'm going to get out of this delivery. So every 2 weeks, what is the value that I'm going to get? And that's where the prioritization of the backlog is very important from a customer viewpoint, looking at the business value being delivered. Matrix reports and reports that get generated from a monitoring continuous viewpoint of view. Again, it should be driven from the tool sets that we are using. There can be certain tools that may not be integrated. For example, if I'm using a tool set which has complete traceability of requirements to the defects and so forth, then it's the best to have it, but maybe customer cannot put so much of investment across the tool sets. So there can be manual reports that needs to be generated, but keep it very simple in terms of what is expected out of it. Your velocity, your release burn down, your defect matrix. So keep it very simple and an effective way of measuring things, measuring your progress, right? Frequent feedback is again very important from all levels. We are talking about the team, we are talking about program management, we are talking about the executive stakeholders within the organization. So feedback needs to look in from top to bottom and bottom to up. So that's a continuous cycle that needs to be there. If it's not there, then definitely there are going to be hiccups with the transformation or in the continuous delivery when the Agile is completely adopted. So team, organization, stakeholders, program management, tool sets, processes, everything. I mean, everything gets impacted when we are talking about an OCM, organization change. It will be done in one day, right? So that's where understand first where the changes are needed. So what is that we currently have as a state? So the approach to this is we do an assessment first. We understand what is the current state, what are our objectives, what tools and practices we are currently adopting, and that's what we want to adopt in future. So as is to a to-be state, we understand the gaps with respect to all the focus areas that we talked about, the 8 focus areas, right? And we analyze the gap, we kind of bridge the gaps in a phased manner. So we would have some focus areas getting bridged in for the first pilot, okay? We will talk about processes and training of people first. So that's the first step we normally take when we are engaged with customers where there is a transformation initiative running through. So process, people is the first area that we target, and then we initiate a pilot project. That's where we would ensure there are limited people involved, very enthusiastic about the processes, okay? They're very skilled in the way they are working. And that's where we have that controlled execution of the project in a pilot phase. We take the learnings from that in the process area or infrastructure or any of the factors that can trigger a failure, right? We take a feedback on that, bring it back to our table, understand where the gaps have been left out, fill those gaps, and reiterate or do that thing again. So it's a cyclic process where you get the pilot project running smoothly, and that's where you can use the same practices, processes, your reports, everything to a larger scale, from one team to multiple teams, multiple geographies, multiple vendors. So it's a gradual process that we recommend when getting engaged with a number of customers with the transformation initiatives. At the same time, what do we do within these four phases that we broadly talked about? So we talk about at different levels, from a program level point of view, at a stakeholder level point of view, and even at the team. We talk about these four things: forming, storming, norming, and swarming, right? So we identify what needs to be done, which are the roles needed, who is going to perform these roles, commitment from the team, right? And ensure that there are no issues at the start of the project or at the start of the transformation phase. We do a storming in terms of identifying responsibilities, define values to be delivered by the team, okay? And team identifies how we are going to proceed, okay? So certain basic principles about Scrum and everything can be laid down, but on the ground things might be different, and we have seen across different customers, not all the processes remain the same. So there is a huge amount of variations that we can see across different customers. So let team decide on what is going to work for them, what is not going to work for them. Discuss with the program team or the executive team. Define a norm saying that this is how we are going to succeed now. So after you have tried it, understand that this is how it's going to perform. Make the team aware of this and look forward for a consistent delivery, consistent behavior across multiple sprints. And that's how you would say that, yes, this is the norm I'm going to follow across my delivery all the time, right? And this is where you would start scaling and increase your performance, increase your quality aspect, reduce the turnaround time. Everything would come in the swarming phase, where you are expanding from one team to multiple teams across different areas. So you are going to measure performance across multiple teams. It should be self-managed. Again, it should not be driven by various stakeholders per se. Very transparent in terms of what's happening within the team. So that's where your dashboards and everything would be very clear in terms of what is that the customer is going to expect in the coming sprints or release, whatever is down the line, right? So when I've started with this session, we talked about what is the evaluation of the methodology. We talked about the areas which get impacted from an organization change management point of view. We talked about these 4 steps that we can perform at any level, whether it's at the team